Okay, I keep listening to various commentators and newscasters talk out loud about the loss of free speech rights of Mr. Silver in regards to the Clippers and the NBA sanctions being imposed upon him on the theory that he's being punished somehow for exercising his right of free speech. There seems to be a disconnect amongst many members of the public, including radio broadcasters and the like, but also including just commentators on Facebook and Twitter and alike, that somehow he's being stripped of his First Amendment rights. Well, interestingly, there was someone who ran a commercial making fun of John Boehner, basically saying if you have a Boehner that lasts for more than 23 years, you have erectile dysfunction, and making fun of the whole idea of comparing it to Viagra or Cialis or something like this, and mocking the ads. And his employer, a Baptist college in Ohio, fired him, saying, "We're not bringing you back under contract again because your ad doesn't meet our values." Well, what the NBA is doing is the same thing. They're saying, we've learned of statements, and it's our investigatory prowess has led us to believe you made those statements, and we're going to sanction you. Now, when you join the NBA or you join any other sports league as an owner, you don't buy the team the same way you might buy a wristwatch or even just a piece of property. In fact, it's more like joining an association, which includes all kinds of restrictive contract covenants and bylaws and ordinances that regulate you. And so when Mr. Silver purchased the franchise, he subjected himself to the NBA commissioner's decisions. If there's a breach of contract, he could sue on those matters, and that would be resolved in court ultimately. But let's talk about what free speech really is. Free speech is the right to be free from government interference in your speech. That's it, government interference, not NBA interference, not the small private Baptist college where I work interference, not my friends won't associate with me. It's a restraint on government action promoting some speech over others or preventing some sort of speech. Now, government can still regulate time, place, and manner of speech, and a strict scrutiny analysis applies. And I could spend a lot of time talking about this, and perhaps that might be a good topic to talk about one time and think, what are your First Amendment protections? But here's the real issue. Every time you hear somebody saying his First Amendment rights or his free speech rights are being violated, we don't have such a thing as free speech, except to the extent that the government is precluded from controlling our speech. That means we may contractually obligate ourselves not to talk. We may contractually obligate ourselves to be removed from an organization or have a bad business consequence if we act not in conformity with that organization's rules. So Mr. Silver has not had his free speech rights trampled upon in any way. Am I sympathetic? Not to what he said. Am I sympathetic that a private conversation was recorded on the sly and then released to the public? Potentially, that's a problem. Now, we don't know the whole circumstance of how the recording was made, and it's been said that he wanted those recordings made. If he wanted them made, there's no issue. If he didn't want them made, then some people say, well, what about wiretap? And the answer is, it may be a wiretap violation if they were recorded secretly, but that's not going to prevent the NBA from acting because, again, that right of free speech is just a restraint on government action. Now, if he were employed by a public university, which is a government entity, and they took action against him based on something he said in his private life, he might have a free speech argument. But there's no government actors involved here. The NBA is not the government, and Mr. Silver is not being asked to do anything by the government at this time. So just put that in the back of your head. Whenever you hear somebody say their free speech rights were violated, ask, how were they violated and by whom? And if the answer is by someone who's not government, then there was actually no violation. So, again, unless there's government action or a government restraint or a government promotion of speech, then your free speech rights have not been violated.